approaches and strategies in teaching reading, literacy, and literature. That is what you will learn today. Let's get started. What are the approaches in teaching literature? There are three general approaches. The first one is the traditional approach. In this approach, the teacher provides political, historical, and social information regarding the literary piece, and the student simply listens and regurgitates what the teacher says. This is mostly lecture-based with very minimal student-to-student interaction. Students ask and answer questions about the text and accomplish assessment tasks in order to check understanding. Number 2, language-based approach. Literature rarely seems like an opportunity for language use, hence the need for a language-based approach to the teaching of literary texts to develop knowledge of literature, not about literature, according to Milani in 2003. Now, in the language-based approach, literature is simply used not only for the teaching of content, but also in order to study language itself. In this classroom, students' attention is drawn to how language is used in the literary text, and they engage in language activities through various literary materials. Activities may include sentence completion, jigsaw puzzle, language games, and other similar tasks. Number 3, reader response approach. Now, the reader response approach does not just look at the text itself, nor focuses heavily on the role of the teacher, but, according to Rosenblunt, the reader response approach to literature involves looking at the literary pieces and studying it not only for its content, but for its meaning based on the reader's interpretation and experience. From the name itself, reader response, the interpretation of a literary text will very much vary based on the context, understanding, and the situations of the learner. This is a very student-centered approach, and most of the time, the teacher teaching literature or reading would involve students in working on activities such as journaling, interpretive drawing, small group discussions, and brainstorming. Now, what are the methods and strategies to employ in teaching reading, literacy, and literature? Let's take a look at 20 methods and strategies in teaching reading, literacy, and literature. Starting off with number 1, oral interpretation. It is a dramatic presentation of a story or a poem individually. In this literary strategy or method, facial expression, voice, posture, eye contact, and gestures are all integral to the success of the presentation. Number 2, reader's theater. The reader's theater involves dramatic reading of a story. It is a strategy, it is a method wherein the students read the text with feelings, using their voice to tell the story. Voice quality, enunciation, and the like are used to bring life to the reading of a literary piece. Number 3, pantomime. Now, in a pantomime, characters act out a story or literary text without saying a word. It is possible, though, that in a pantomime there is a narrator who may be reading out certain lines, or that it is completely just a silent performance with the gestures and facial expressions carrying the story. Number 4, creative dramatics. It is a dramatization using impromptu lines, and it is best used for learning about folk tales, fables, and short story. The puppet theater, on the other hand, is a theater presentation, but instead of using human beings, learners use puppets to tell the story. Number 6, Role plays. This is one of the most common methods used in a literary class. A role play is a dramatization involving pre assigned roles and memorized lines. Number 7, graphic organizers. This involves the use of semantic webs, story maps, and other visual tools to teach a literary text. Number 8, differentiated literature circles. This method is a collaborative activity. It is a small group led discussion of a piece of literature wherein members come together to share interpretations and insights about what they read, says Shelton Strong in 2012. Now, in a literature circle, learners are given pre assigned roles. They may decide among themselves who will take the role of the discussion director or the facilitator, the creative connector, that person who ties together the insights shared by the rest of the group, the passage predictor, somebody who predicts or makes assumptions about what the text or certain parts of the text would be. The artistic artist is the person responsible for literally drawing on paper or through technological tools the group's interpretation or response to a question. The super summarizer, on the other hand, just puts together the thoughts of the group, summarizing them into one concise piece, while the word wizard is responsible for vocabulary building or for writing down words or sentences that involve vocabulary. This is a very creative way of allowing students to explore a literary piece while giving them autonomy to discover for themselves their strengths and abilities. Number 9, 6 thinking hats. This is created by Edward de Bono. This group activity is actually another group-led discussion wherein this time the group members wear a particular hat, 6 different hats altogether, and each hat or each color has a particular meaning. The blue hat symbolizes process. The white hat focuses on facts or details that can be found in the text. The red hat looks at feelings or emotions of the characters in the literary material. The green hat is for innovations or creative ideas. The yellow hat is for the benefits or the advantages of a particular course of action, advantages of a proposal, for example, while the black hat is for cautions or disadvantages. Now, the black hat is playfully called the hat of the devil's advocate because the student who wears a black hat will only look at the downside, the negativity, and the cautions of a given situation or of a given course of action. Number 10, carousel brainstorming. Another collaborative activity is known as a carousel brainstorming. Here, students pass around activity sheets which they accomplish, and each group puts in additional information or an additional answer to a question each time the paper is passed to them. Now, which of these 10 methods and strategies so far have you used in class? And are we ready to move on to numbers 11 to 20? If you are, then let's go. Number 11, multisensory teaching. This method involves the teaching of literature by stimulating multiple senses through music, art, and kinesthetic activities. So, for example, if a teacher is telling or reading a story, he or she may also employ music or may even ask students to draw as she discusses or draw as she reads aloud or dance or do kinesthetic activities. The goal is to activate as many senses as possible so that the more senses are activated, the better the learning. Number 12, Suggestopedia or Desuggestopedia. Created by Georgy Lozanov, this particular method believes that physical surroundings and classroom atmosphere are vital factors in making sure that students feel comfortable and confident. This method makes use of music, particularly Baroque music and art, in teaching language and literature, and it consists of 4 phases. Now, what exactly are these 4 phases of Suggestopedia or Desuggestopedia? Let's talk about each one. The first phase is known as deciphering. Deciphering is actually synonymous with the introduction of the lesson. In the deciphering stage, a teacher introduces to her students or his students some written or spoken content, such as a reading material. And if the material is a bilingual material, you can find that most of the time, the foreign language text is found on the left half of the page, while a translation is presented on the right hand. Now, in this stage, the teacher presents the story or reads the story or presents the material which will be discussed or utilized in the lesson. Next is the concert session, and it's divided into 2, the active concert session and the passive concert session. For the active concert session, the teacher reads the text at a normal speed with music playing in the background, and students are asked to follow along in the reading. Now, in the passive concert session, the teacher reads again the story at a more relaxed pace, while students just relax and listen to the teacher, trying to absorb as much information, trying to relate the material to their experiences. All these being done still with music playing in the background. The third phase is elaboration. Here, the students express what they have learned through group activities or individual tasks, such as acting, playing, or singing of songs. And finally, in the last phase, or the production phase, students spontaneously interact with each other using the target language. They may discuss what the material was about, or they may just do a performance-based task that was assigned by the teacher. Number 13, jigsaw. Just like pieces of a puzzle, students are first formed into their home groups where they do preliminary tasks, and then they are broken into the so-called expert groups, which are comprised of learners from the home group who learn or master a topic or a subtopic together with the goal of teaching these to their home groups. Each of the members of the different expert groups will return to their home groups and teach the members of their home group what they have learned from the expert group. Up next are strategies for teaching reading, literature, and literacy that are recommended by the K-12 and Matatag curricula. Number 14, independent reading. From the name itself, this involves giving learners time to read on their own, either silently or aloud. Teachers can provide a variety of reading materials that are appropriate for learners' reading levels and interests. Number 15, shared reading. Now, from the name itself, shared reading is done together with a partner or as a class with a teacher taking the lead. Now, if the teacher is taking the lead, the teacher reads aloud to the class while learners follow along, pointing to certain words, pictures, or paragraphs as they appear. In the case of shared reading with a classmate, then somebody takes the lead and takes the role of the teacher. This helps learners learn how to follow text from left to right, up from top to bottom, and use context clues to understand unfamiliar words. Number 16, guided reading. In this approach, the teacher works with small groups and reads a material that is at their instructional level. The teacher then provides support and guidance as learners read, helping them to build reading fluency, comprehension, vocabulary, and grammar skills. Number 17, phonics instruction. Phonics is the relationship between letters and sounds, and it is an important component of learning to read, particularly in the early and beginning reading phases. Phonics instruction can involve teaching learners to recognize letter-sound correspondences, blending sounds together in order to form words, and breaking words down into individual sounds. This is one component that is important in reading. Number 18, vocabulary instruction. Vocabulary instruction is indispensable to reading. Building vocabulary is essential for reading comprehension, and teachers can use various strategies to teach vocabulary, such as introducing words within the context or allowing them to define words based on context clues, using graphic organizers to help learners understand word meanings, using pictures to show what certain words look like or mean, and incorporating vocabulary games and activities into the lessons. Number 19, comprehension strategies. In addition to phonics and vocabulary, learners need to develop strategies for understanding what they read. And that's where comprehension strategies come in. Now, teachers can teach comprehension strategies such as predicting, questioning, summarizing, and making connections in order to help learners better understand and remember what they read. And finally, number 20, interactive read-alouds. This involves the teacher reading a story aloud while stopping periodically to engage learners in conversations and discussions about the story. In this particular method, teacher reads to the entire class, and every 2 or 3 paragraphs stops, asks a question in order to give time for students to respond and check for understanding, or asks or stops and asks students to draw or write down questions or take down notes based on what was read so far in the literary text. Now, those are the 3 approaches and 20 methods and strategies for teaching reading and literature. Thanks for joining, and see you in our next learning session.